Hi everyone, today I'm going to try to start at least an overview of grade 1, so AMEB grade 1. I'll at least get a good way through it. Might take a couple of sessions to cover the grade, but I think we can get a good start on it. So, whoops, just knocked my microphone. Right, so first step is treble clef and bass clef. Treble and bass. So we'll start with the treble. So note naming is one of the, I've just expanded that screen and now you can't see anything. There we go. What am I doing? Okay, so learning to name the notes is pretty straightforward in my opinion. People have cute little rhymes to know what the names of the notes are. I think the important thing to understand is the alphabet. So G, A, so in music, of course, we have 7 letters, and I love the question, what comes before A? And the answer is G, because G is the note before A. If you don't believe me, let me just keep going here. So we basically go up the alphabet, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So learning to name all of those is a little bit daunting. So these ones, you see they're below the main 5 lines of the stave. So we call them ledger lines. So they're called ledger lines. So ledger lines, we have them below. So when we run out of the normal 5 lines, then we need to add an extra line. And so we need to learn how to name them. But first of all, we can start by learning to name the notes on the main 5 lines. But what you need to understand, and what I want to show you here, it's the alphabet. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Wait, what happened there? Oops, something weird happened. I went on a typing frenzy. E, F, G, A, B, there we go. And the last one is C. So it's the alphabet, okay? So learn to say the first 7 letters of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yes, it's that easy. But what might be helpful as well is to learn to say that backwards. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. G, F, E, D, C, B, A. So that's something to learn. G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Can you say the first 7 letters of the alphabet backwards? Because if you can, it's really going to help note naming, right? Now, some people, have little cute sayings for how to remember the notes. Every good boy deserves fruit. Oh, it's maybe. Or what I think is more useful is F, A, C, E. Spells face. These are the notes in the spaces. So my idea is that the notes in the spaces, F, A, C, E, is really easy to learn, right? Now, the thing is, if you know the notes in the spaces, then you can work everything else out. You know that the first space is F. So because that's the first space, then this has to be the next note up because it goes space, line, let me add these in here. Space, line, space, line, space, line, space, line, either up or down. Line, space, etc., etc., etc. So it's going space, line, through the alphabet. You can see that here. A space, B line, C space, D line. So going space, line is through the alphabet. So if this first one is an F, then the next note up is going to be a G, right? If that space is an A, then the next line up is going to be the next alphabet letter, B. FAC, if the third space up, as we found out here, if the third space up is C, then the next line up will be the next letter, alphabet letter, which will be D. If the top space is E, then the next note up is going to be an F. Okay? So that applies beautifully to the treble clef. Now, before I leave the treble clef, maybe we might just cover the ledger lines here as well. So it's easy to get to the F there. What happens? Well, this is where we need to learn to be able to say the alphabet to keep it going. So it's very important to practice drawing the F, the G, the A, the B, and the C. And what you have to do is draw an extra ledger lines to keep it moving up, right? And that's going to be that's the F, that's the G, then that's the A, that's the B, and that's the C. And you need to practice drawing that up, right? Because what's going to happen is you're going to be asked a random question with a treble clef, what is that note? Right? And so, therefore, you're going to have to, let me see if I can do this with the ghost note. See if you can see this. So you've got to say to yourself, F, G, A, or you can do it here, F, G, A, B. So it's a B. Right, so you need to practice drawing that out. Now, that's at the top end. At the low end, you need to do the same. So moving down here, so you need to go from the E, and you just need to practice drawing on a treble clef, saying the alphabet backwards. E, D, C, B, A, G. So learning to say that, it's not hard. E, D, C, B, A, G. Right, so that's some homework to do where you just practice writing them out. So you've got the F, G, A, B, C to get the top ledger lines, and then you've got the below the E, D, C, B, A, G to get the bottom ledger lines. Then we need to go on to the clef, base clef. So let's stick one of those in. There we go. So we've got base clef here, and you already understand the alphabet scale process. Let's now just jump to the chase because the notes are different. So we have A, C, E, G. Let's work out what they are. So now all cows eat grass. So that means we've only needed two sayings, because what I find is that a lot of people get confused about which saying goes where. Some people are good with it. They get all of the little sayings, the sayings on lines as well. But honestly, this is the first 7 letters of the alphabet. People, I've made an entire career out of knowing 7 letters of the alphabet. It's not that hard. Just concentrate and you can learn to do it. So what that means is we've got A in that first space, which means the next note up is what comes after A, Take your time, people. B, right? So we have an A. The next note, the next line up is going to be the B. And that's the way to learn it. All cows. So now what C is that second space up. So what comes after C? D. Right? Then we've got E, all cows eat. What comes after E? Take your time. F. All cows eat grass. What comes after G? Aha, we learnt this. A comes after G because we go back to A. So it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it just keeps going like that. All right, so then we can name these C, oops, I keep knocking the microphone, D, E, F, G, A, right? Then you need to practice with the bass clef. Your ledger lines, this time your ledger lines goes A, B, C, D, E, right? And then below we've got G, F, E, D, C. Oh my goodness, I'm down here. Sorry guys. That went a bit crazy. Let's do it here. All right, so we've got, where are we? So above A, then we've got B, then we've got C, then we've got D, E, then we've got, I'll do it below here. So G, F, E, D, C. All right, and just practice writing it out. All right, and it all comes down to learning to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Will not hurt. It's a really valuable thing to learn to say the notes backwards, right? Because in music, we not only go up, we go down. And when we descend in music, the alphabet's backwards. When we ascend, that means going up, we go through the alphabet in a normal way. But when we descend, the alphabet is backwards. Okay. All right, we've covered that. What's next on the list? Let's see if we can do a couple more things quickly. All right, so we've learnt to name the notes. Can we do intervals? Yep, let's do intervals. Okay, so I'll just go back to the treble clef for everyone. All right, so we're back in the treble clef. Let's do intervals. Okay, intervals are really easy. Let's draw C major scale. All right, now an interval measures the distance between two notes. So in first grade theory, we need to be able to count the distance between notes. So when we count notes in music, we always count the first note as 1, and then we count from there. So when we look at a scale shows us how to number the notes. So if we wanted to count from C to E, we count C as 1, D in the middle would be 2, and E would be 3. So then we call that a third. Right? So if that was drawn like this, we have the C and the E on top of it. So that interval or distance between those two notes is what we call a third. Hang on, we'll just put that there, right? So that's a third. All right. So learning to count these, if we had, let's see, C up to A, okay, we'd have to count them. C is 1, C, D, E, F, G, A. So that's 6. There's 6 notes involved, including C as the first one. So that is a 6th interval. All right, and so that's really the main part of the game. We could start on another note, F, F to C. So F will be 1. So F is 1, G is 2, A is 3, B flat is 4, and C is 5. So that is the interval of a fifth. So it's the same process for both treble and bass clefs. You just have to number the notes and remember to count the first note as 1. All right? So here's a little test. So what is this interval? And of course we only do intervals of the major scale. In fact, it's only C major scale, F major scale, and G major scale. They're the only scales you have to learn in this grade, so that makes it easy. G to an F sharp. Oh my goodness, you ready to count this? G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, D is 5, E is 6, and F sharp is 7. So that is a seventh. Okay? And those intervals have to be for each of those scales. All right, so that covers intervals. Moving on here, we're doing a bit of a fast drag through the grade. Hang on, I'll just turn the page so I can look at my notes. Remind myself what else we've got to do. Okay, so we've got some scales to learn. Might as well do those while we're here. So you need to be able to write out C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And for that scale, let's put this on another line here. Where are we? Okay, here we go. All right, so to be able to write out C major scale, what you need to be able to know is the pattern of tones and semitones. So tone, hang on, this gets a bit confusing. How will I do this? Hang on, I'll just do this, bear with me. Right, so it's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Now it's a bit weird doing this on the computer. So whenever you do things on the computer, it gets a bit weird. So just move that along. There we go. Now, what is this? Well, this is the pattern of tones and semitones. So between C and the note D, we label that as a tone. That's another measuring trick. So that's known as a tone. Why? Well, because we have a C sharp or a D flat in between. C sharp and D flat are the same. So because there's another note in between, a C to a C sharp would be a semitone, then the C sharp to the D would be a semitone, but the C to D is a tone. Let me just explain that a little. Let me draw that just so that you can understand what I'm talking about. C sharp is a half step up, so that's a semitone, and then to the D, so C to C sharp is the very nextest note up, so that's a semitone. And C sharp to D is the very nextest note up. So if you look at a keyboard, you'll be able to see that quite graphically. But C to D is 2 semitones, which makes a tone. So maybe if I label that, there you go, there's a semitone, and then we need another semitone. So in between, so C to C sharp is a semitone, C sharp to D is a semitone, but let me get a nice little cute bracket here. But C to D is a tone. T for tone. Okay, so 2 semitones, tone. So as we move up through here, the same thing's going to be going on. D to E is a tone. And because there's a D sharp in between. But E to F is a semitone, right? So let's put a slur on that one. F to G is a tone because there's an F sharp in between. So sorry, coming back to E to F, E sharp is the same as the note F. Okay, so it's a bit weird, but if you have a look at the notes on a keyboard, the note E and the note F, you'll see there's no black note in between. F to G, there's an F sharp in between, so you'll see a black note in between them. So that's a tone. G to A is a tone because there's no notes in between. Sorry, I'm losing the plot. G, there's a G sharp in between, so that's a tone, right? And then A to B is also a tone because there's an A sharp in between. So you'll see the black note in between. But if we go B to C, you look on the keyboard and there's no note in between. So that's a semitone. So we need another slur there. Okay, so you need to know the pattern of tones and semitones. So now what you need to know is if we descend, if I write this scale backwards, right, if I descend, which means going down, so I've written the scale out from top C there. If I need to do the pattern of tones and semitones, we've got to count from the lowest to the highest. So C to D is a tone. D to E is a tone. Let's put that there. E to F, E to F is a semitone. So that's a semitone. So I'll just put a little slur. I'm just using a slur to show the semitones. Now F to G, so that's a tone. So I'll put that there. G to A is a tone. Put that there. A to B is a tone. And of course, B to C is a semitone. So that's a semitone. So you can see it's the same but backwards. So where we went tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, well, if the scale is descending, then we have to, if we learn our pattern, like if you've memorized the pattern, because that can make it quick when you're doing exams, then you make sure you go from the bottom up. Right, otherwise it won't work out very well. All right, so if we go through these other scales quickly, G major, so you have to learn to write out G major. And of course, the thing we learn about G major is that it has an F sharp, right? And that F sharp comes about through the same pattern of tones and semitones. So if we go tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, then we need an F sharp. And what that means is that the scale, so this is the scale of G major, all right, you'll have to be able to write that both in all of these scales. You have to write in the treble clef and be able to write it in the bass clef. So that's why you have to be able to name your notes. Okay, now what also happens is that scales have a key signature. A key signature is a little secret code over on the left when you see the start of music. And the F sharp, and that indicates that any F that you come to in the music is an F sharp. And it wouldn't matter which F it was. If I had a little piece of music here in G major, right, I've used, there's an F, okay, but we know from the key signature that it's an F sharp. And if I had this in the music, there's an F there. Well, that's also an F sharp because we have this F sharp in the key signature. And in the music, the sharp is not placed on each F. So you just have to know. Now, in theory exams, when you have to complete an exam, the question might say, write the scale of G major using the key signature, or it might say, write the scale of G major using accidentals. What is an accidental? An accidental is a sharp or a flat that's not in the key signature. However, that's the way it works with music. But in theory, if the question says, write the scale using accidentals, boy, we have some weird accidentals. What even is that? That doesn't even make grammatical sense. Gosh, we have some weird things in music. Right, so accidentals, well, that means you place the sharp next to the actual note. So in G major has an F sharp. So that would mean if we have to write the scale of G major, wherever there's an F sharp, then we have to place the sharp next to the actual note. Whereas if there's a key signature, that means showing the sharp at the beginning of the music. Then the F is already covered. All right, and the other scale that you need to do, and I'll end this video with this, otherwise you'll all fall asleep because my voice will be too boring. Now, so going F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Of course, F major has a B flat. So there's the key signature. So there's the B flat for F major. Again, same pattern, tone, tone, semitone. I'll put the slur on the semitones. Tone, 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 semitone. So between notes 3 and 4, and 7 and 8 are semitones. Okay, so but if I had to do that with accidentals, that's such a silly term, then I would have to place the B flat next to the note B. Okay. All right, I think that's more than enough. And then I will continue with this grade into part 2. Hopefully in 3 parts I can knock out the whole grade, and there you have resources to help you fill out a first grade theory exam. Okay, enjoy.